Welcome everyone to the Kitchen Alchemy Podcast, where we look at the stories of the transformational power of food and the lives of those who create it. I am Chef Scott Guerin, the research and development chef here at Modernist Pantry, and today we have an amazing guest, Chef Evan Hennessey of Stages at One Washington in Dover, New Hampshire. Evan is an extremely responsible chef who sources all of his ingredients locally, everything from his dairy to his proteins to his vegetables. He also forages the land for all of his ingredients weekly.
Monday, Tuesday is, go outside, go to the ocean, go to the forest, clip, store, and take notes and create the list of what I'm going to be creating the menu from.
And Evan was most recently featured on Chopped, and he won.
I have 20 minutes to do something. Cooking will fall into place, but timing is a huge thing. It was awesome. I mean, I had such a great experience. I love this style of competition.
So let's get into the interview with Evan Hennessey. So I'm back with Evan Hennessey of Stages at One Washington in Dover, New Hampshire. He's actually the chef owner there, and he recently competed on Chopped. So Evan, what I want to know is your entire culinary journey, the steps you took, the mistakes you made, everything about you as a chef. I really like this because you need to learn from people's mistakes. You also need to learn from your own mistakes. And these little things, these little steps that we take are so important. So tell me about your culinary journey from beginning, the experiences you had in the middle, and your most recent one as a contestant on Chopped.
Absolutely, man. First of all, thanks for having me on. This is a great thing. So
absolutely.
Yeah, good conversation. So take you all the way back 4,000 years ago, back when I was a wee little guy. I originally wanted to be actually an animator for Disney. Culinary wasn't necessarily in my pipeline. And going all the way through junior high and high school, I took every single art class that I could get into. I even went to Northeastern and did cartooning classes. I did graphic design classes at Mass Art in Boston while I was all in high school. And in my mind, that's kind of what I wanted to do. And I went to a portfolio fair for different art schools, and actually Disney happened to be there representing their animation department. And so I brought a portfolio with me. Everything looked good. And so I got the full application and acceptance for an internship there, which was awesome. The issue was that I could complete every part of their application process except that I needed a 30-second film. Now, I know that doesn't seem like that's very long, but in the world of animation, that's a lot. And especially when we're going back in the day, this is before computers and before Pixel and before any of that stuff. So it was all done by screenshot and cells. And so that's a lot of work. The art department in my high school didn't have that capability. So dreams of Disney internship just got shot.
So would that have to be like 30 hand-drawn images per second for the 30 seconds, or
yeah, at least that. the more drawings, the more sort of continuous the movement looks. So that was kind of that. But I ended up going through art anyways. I went to the University of Kentucky for fine arts, emphasis in drawing, and my family's from Kentucky. The school itself has an excellent basketball program, and in my opinion, the best in the country. And I played a lot of basketball, tried out for the team, actually, because I played basketball all the way through high school and everything, and made it halfway through the cut. So for a little over 100 people, that's in a little white boy from New Hampshire, that's not bad. Did that, and again, continued playing a lot of basketball, and I didn't go to as many classes as the university thought that I should. I suppose that was, their rule, not mine.
Sounds like college.
silly school things. Yeah. At that point, so I came back to New Hampshire, back to Dover, and looked in the newspaper. Again, sort of dating myself with that. Looked in the newspaper and found a job as a prep cook and a dishwasher at a local fish fry place here called Newick's, and which is still standing today.
Nice.
And kind of got in there, had no idea. My mother thought that I was crazy, for doing that, because I think actually given that era. It's still slowly crossing over into, going from like almost a servant's position to, the background job. So like, why would you want to be a cook, let alone a chef? Why do you want to do that? Up into what the industry has achieved for itself today. And so I loved what I was doing. I watched the guys that are on the line, and I kind of said to myself, I was like, I want to do that. And so moved my way up through the line, and got to the sort of the head position there, and then bumped over to another restaurant. Just kind of repeated suit for a handful of years, and then decided that I wanted it to be a career, not a job. And so that I went to a Le Cordon Bleu program that was actually through the Atlantic Culinary Academy here in Dover. Unfortunately, other than a nice little piece of paper that I can't find anymore, I have no proof that I actually went to the school. So you have to believe me, I promise.
I also went to the exact same school, and I'm in the exact same boat as you. So I totally understand. And out with the piece of paper went with our lifetime job placement that they guaranteed. So I want to take a little step back, because you had mentioned, you're wanting to pursue art and things like that. Did that help with maybe your eye for plating, your eye for where things should go on a plate aesthetically?
Absolutely. It's one of the more common remarks that I get at stages now, when people find out that I have an art background. And it not only helps me as far as, I always call, balance of everything. And I use the rule of thirds a lot, when I'm putting things together. And, you're looking for textural balance, color balance, weight balance, so it doesn't look like sort of all the bigger items are on one section of the plate. And it absolutely helps. Yeah. Yeah,
it's amazing the little things that kind of go into something that seems as simple as plating, but it's really not that simple. Because I know I'm sure, along with you, sometimes you plate something and in your mind it looks great, and then you get it on a plate and you're like, oh God.
Yeah.
What do I got to do? Well, and you're in the middle of service.
Right. Yeah. It's interesting too. And I'm not sure how you do it, that one of the other questions that I get is, when you put a plate together, how much forethought into that design do you have? Did you spend, any amount of time, whether it be on paper or just in your head, you're kind of, trying to figure out how you want that dish to look. And for me, it's actually like the absolute last thing that I do. And I literally, you can treat almost like going back to the art reference, kind of like a painter's canvas, that all of a sudden you have all your, your mise en place in front of you, you've got everything ready to go, and you have your plate. So in essence, you have your paints and your canvas. And at that point, you start building. And you let all those sort of art rules kind of channel through you, and you kind of put it all together, and all of a sudden it just kind of makes sense at a very quick moment. But 100% to agree with you, man, that it's just like sometimes you put something on the plate and you're like, oh no, that's not good.
Yeah, sometimes I go into it with something in my mind, or I don't really draw too much, because I don't know, it's just not my thing for plating.
Same, yeah.
Some people are, but I like that kind of, you have all your, paints on the palette, which are your ingredients or whatever's going on the dish, and then you just put it together. And sometimes it works and sometimes it doesn't. Sometimes you go linear, sometimes you go focal point. It's really kind of crazy. And I really like that aspect. Now I want to do like a competition where people just get ingredients, the same ingredients, and everyone has to plate it and see. Let's start that.
Yeah. I'm in. I'll sign up for that.
So we're going to stay back just a little bit. Do you have any earliest memories of food or memorable experiences? It could just be, at home, maybe, parents cooked, grandparents cooked, or even big family meals like Thanksgiving, things like that. Do you have anything that stands out that kind of made you love food, or were you like a picky eater as a kid?
That might be a better question for my mom. I think as far as a picky eater, I don't believe so. I guess the one thing that would confirm that is that I've always loved Brussels sprouts. That's something that's that's not necessarily a kid food. So that may say, okay, I'm not a picky eater. But as far as going back to the childhood, definitely I think I've always been around food and cooking in kitchens, not necessarily professionally, but it was always when we were at my grandparents' house in Kentucky. The kitchen is the center of the party. It always is. And, so anytime family is there, it's like aunts and uncles, everybody's cooking. And, big meal. And the same thing, Thanksgiving, we each take part of it. So it's never been, kids sit in one room, grown up cooks. And it's always been, you have your little part. And even if it's as much as, opening the can of cranberry sauce for Thanksgiving, which is my brother's job, by the way, you're still part of it. So that, from a very early age, you feel the inclusion and the family aspect of food and cooking. And I mean, that sort of carries, all the way up to now, which is, people are in the kitchen with me, and that's very much like you're a part of it, and
Yeah.
I've always loved that aspect of it, definitely.
Yeah, it brings people together, whether you're in a kitchen, at home. It's a really great experience. And sometimes when you have those people that you've worked with, it's almost like going to war with them. Like you can see each other after 15, 20 years. It's like you were never apart. So still, I'm just, because you gave me a lot at the beginning, and I really want to kind of delve into, you and what brought you here. And so that culinary school, we talked a little bit about it. Sadly, it's not there anymore. And I drove by it not too long ago and saw that it was completely torn down, and it just like shredded me a little bit. But so how was your experience there? Did you have any teachers that stood out to you who inspired you or anything like that? Any good experiences there?
Yeah, I mean, my overall experience was good. I learned, the nice thing is it was kind of my second go around at school. Mm-hmm. So, you mentioned, or like when we were talking before, it was just kind of, how do you everybody has mistakes, and how do you sort of learn from them? And, I learned very much so, how not to do school. and so, I kind of took everything that I kind of did wrong at Kentucky and, flopped it. And when I went at this like I was in a restaurant, it's like, you're given a task, now do it the best you can. And, so my experience was excellent. And as far as some of the chefs, Chef Guerin was there, Jack Guerin, Chef Boardman. Those are my best influences. And I remember when we were working the line for the restaurant, and Guerin would you could see who has kitchen experience and who doesn't in the school, and he'd always pull me aside and say, try this, do this. He's like, I know the book wants us to tell you this way, but when you're in the heat of battle, he's like, do it like this. Mm-hmm. And he's showing you like how to really work a line using the classic French, which is what he was trained on. And so I highly appreciate the fact he and I still are in good contact, and he's actually come in and cooked at Stages with me.
Oh, that's amazing.
Before, which was awesome. That was just such a, I don't know, a put two worlds together kind of thing. And, the fact that, he's calling me chef, which just blew my mind. I was like, no, you're chef.
Yes.
So.
Yeah, it's a big chef off sometimes. Oh, chef.
Oh, God, yeah.
Yeah, I totally agree. That'd be great. I mean, we had spoke about it maybe a year ago. I still have a young child, so it's hard for me to get out. But I do want to come, and I want to hang out with you in the kitchen and get back on the line. I've been off the line for a little while. But yeah, just like I couldn't imagine bringing in one of my chefs from school and doing that. So that's a super cool experience.
It was great.
Yeah. So you talked about him being a mentor. When you finally got out and you started really grinding and hustling to make something of yourself, who were your mentors? What chefs did you work with?
One of my sort of, I guess it was a while ago, but person that always constantly sticks out of my mind with that is Grant Achatz. Mm-hmm. And I worked with him at Trio, so this is before the Alinea days. And talk about sort of adopting and adapting the Thomas Keller mentality of, you are always a student and you're always a cook and a teacher all the time. And, it didn't matter how popular or how many accolades or how forward thinking or how Ferran-esque that he was, sort of touted to be. He was very much on the cutting board next to you, making sure he was asking you questions, making sure you have any. It was all about making sure that you understood the process, the reason, the outcome, the big picture. And that's one of the biggest things that I couldn't stress more to younger cooks is, get out of your own, get the blinders off. When you think of like horses with blinders, get those things off and start to understand the bigger picture. And when you do, and I don't just mean just within the restaurant, I mean within your industry, within the culinary world. And then, it's quite a process, and I just kind of stated that one sentence, but then you see your cooking really, really start to mature. And for me, that's a huge thing. And he really was there to answer and ask any questions. He told me about, being in Spain and his time at the laundry and everything, and, kind of what he learned from that. And it was great because it was very much a pay it forward situation. Mm-hmm. And it was great.
And can you take that and put it into exactly how that guided you into something like Stages, is there one specific thing that you were able to take away from that, other than, the taking off the blinders and whatnot? Was there one specific reason or idea that you took away from that guided you to where you are today?
There were actually two, and one is culinary, one is not necessarily. The one that is not is the aspect of family. And I'd been in places before where it's the chef is the chef and you don't question anything, and and in this aspect, it was everybody works as a team, everybody moves as a family, and then after service, we all sat down in the library, and chef would put out a concept, and he would just say, I'm kind of thinking about this. What do you guys think about? And he would just talk about sort of like, I don't know, trout and pine, and then from there, everybody just starts scribbling down notes, and everybody just writing, and literally it's almost like a classroom, because it's like you're raising your hand, like, what about this? Well, what about this? And you kind of guys got like bouncing different ideas, back and forth. And and then when it's all sort of said and done, you have like the building blocks for a dish that will, likely hit the menu the next week or so. Yeah. But the point was that, everybody got to sit down. At that point, there was no, chef, sous chef, CDC, none of that. It was just everybody was a cook, and everybody was part of that family. And I love that. The other thing that I really took away was how to achieve complexity through simplicity. And that is a phrase that I will take with me to the grave, and that I will always, always, always continue to work on. And if you look at some of the great masters that cook, and you realize it isn't 4,000 things on a plate. It's how do you do 3 things really well? And that's another great thing to pass down to younger cooks as far as learning. It's like stop like over garnishing or overdoing or over putting too many techniques on one plate. I see too many times, and that's what I took away is like find the base flavor, and again everything comes back to flavor and taste that you want to achieve, and then how do you create that so that your point, your message of that dish gets across to the diner the way that you want it to be interpreted.
Yeah, that's a great thing. I mean, I tend to do that because maybe the way to say it is just because you can doesn't mean you need to.
Oh, totally. Yeah.
Yeah. Sometimes it's like, oh, what if I put this and that and this and that? And yeah. But by the time you look at the plate, you're like, oh God, there's 15 things on here.
There's too many things. Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I
had a sous chef that he was showing the promise of like, okay, man, let's start talking menu, because your cooking is coming along, your technique is getting more refined. Let's start talking dish conception, and so he would come to me with like, a laundry list of like all these different ideas. I was like, that's awesome, man. It's like you're writing, you've got all these things going, and then he's like, I want to do this and this, and then he literally, and I was like, okay, and then what? And that was always like my finishing remark to him, was like, and then what? And he had the hardest time putting a complete dish together. He wanted to put so many different techniques on one plate. I was like, you're totally missing the point.
You become static at that point,
Yeah.
That's a great little lesson, and absolutely you can see it in your food when you look at, because you don't have a written menu, and we could talk a little bit about that later, but you can't go to your website and see exactly what you have for this season. Yours is daily, and right. But you can see it in the imagery on your website. It's not overdone. You can look there and see what everything is, which is really amazing to be able to do. And I will be in your restaurant soon. I finally convinced my wife to leave the house. But yes, we will be making a reservation very soon, as should everyone else, because it's an experience. It's not just a meal. So we talked a lot about the things that brought you to where you are, and a lot of your good mentors and other items like that. But there has to be downfalls, right? It's a roller coaster in this business. So there's peaks and valleys, and those valleys come with big failures or big risks. What are your failures that you've had, and what lessons did you learn from those failures?
Failures is a tough one, because I think there's varying degrees of it. I mean, there's things that can make you sort of hit rock bottom. And, to speak personally for 2 seconds, that I've gone through a divorce just a couple of years ago. And personally, that kind of, that was a personal rock bottom for me. And a lot of that, in all honesty, was caused because of working. And I put so much time into what I was doing, and I couldn't figure out how to achieve work-life balance. And, very, very quickly, my ex-wife and I, weren't we weren't husband and wife, let alone necessarily friends, you know, and then it just kind of became farther and farther and split. And it just got to a point where it's like, this just isn't working. So that would be my ultimate, you know, since we're being honest here, you know,
I
sort of
absolutely appreciate it.
Failure.
Yeah.
You know, but then through that, you know, actually Stages in its entirety is one hell of a learning experience. And because I go back to when we first wanted to go to open it, you know, that we put a business plan together, and my brother, who's my business partner, is an accountant. So it's awesome. You don't ever want this guy to cook, but you know, our little company is set up like an international mega conglomerate, which is awesome. And he's awesome for tax time. But we put out the business plan, and again, it's like, yeah, I've worked on other projects since opening Stages, and I keep looking at it as like, you can put anything you want to on paper. You can make it look however you want to. You can make a restaurant look as successful as you believe it can be on paper, and hand that to a bank or to an investor and say like, okay, now give me, you know, a lot of money. Yeah. And so we did exactly that. With this, hindsight 2020 kind of blind idea that if you build it, they will come. And, we originally kind of, I guess, went after the idea that Next does, where you take a menu, you create it, and then it goes away. And we were doing that every single month, where we would completely redesign the entire restaurant every single month. We'd be open for 3 weeks, do a certain menu, a certain theme, if you will, design all the decor of the restaurant, change the music, change everything, plateware, the whole deal, and then shut down for a week and wipe the slate clean, and do it again, and with a whole different idea. And after about a year and a half of that, and sort of up and down attendance, because depending on the theme or the idea or the menu that we did, obviously it would drive a certain crowd, and then conversely, actually, it would maybe not. And not only did we get tired, but I think the thrill of the idea of what we were doing became tired really fast. And what we realized that we needed to do was start creating a consistency within the restaurant and within the business and within our cooking, so that people knew in many ways what to expect, because obviously we know consistency can be a maker or breaker of any restaurant. So we slowed down doing those dinners, and we went to a prefix menu to start introducing the idea of a tasting menu only restaurant. It allowed us to speak to our season here more. It allowed us to work more directly with the farms. And as we kept doing that, we started really, really enjoying what we were doing. And I look back at, the original ideas, like, first of all, the business plan was so wrong. None of those numbers ever hit. We didn't do any of those numbers we expected to do. The majority of the people that we expected to come in didn't. So in terms of kind of failures, it was just one of those, like, we put out an idea with a certain financial hope, and none of it happened. We couldn't have been more wrong. So the nice thing, and this kind of alludes to why do we call it Stages, and it's a very evolutionary restaurant. We continue to evolve. And so we learned very quickly from our mistakes and what worked and what didn't. And we started evolving the restaurant into a tasting menu restaurant. That's just flash forward into what you see now.
And some people see, you will have a group of people who will always come, and then people get scared that they're going to lose that group of people if they change anything, and then they become stagnant. They just stay along the same track. But right. You are smart enough to switch something. You mentioned doing something similar to Next. Which one did the best? Like, which idea, which concept, and which one did the worst, I guess, for lack of a better term?
It's a great. So the best has always been our Springtime in Paris theme, and that was kind of taking a look at the season. Is obviously in spring, and that, depending on the climate, has never been in the same month. I think twice. It's always been like March, April, May. And then kind of taking a look at maybe focusing on a part of France, whether it be a region. We've done Gascony, we've done Left Bank, we've done, sort of Old Paris, we've done, just different varieties of it. And that would always hit well. The one that did the worst, and kind of, I wish it didn't, was our Alice in Wonderland one. Because that was like the most totally offbeat, super playful, thing that was like the absolute opposite of what a lot of the stuff that we were doing. And it gave us a chance to play with a lot of the stuff that I had learned at Trio, a lot of the sort of, highly technical, things, and we go to our pantry of hydrocolloids and stabilizers and be like, all right, what aren't we using?
Yeah.
And it allowed us to play with that, and people just didn't buy into it. They're like, I don't know, it's just a little too weird.
Yeah, and you're in a tough area. Well, not necessarily a tough area, but you're not in a very big city. You're an hour outside of Boston, maybe even a little bit more. And the next biggest city is Portland, which is very grassroots. Amazing food up there, but very focused on seasonality and stuff like that. So yeah, you're. That sounds like a tough one to do.
That was a tough one. Yeah, that was a tough one. So we put that one. We actually tried it again because a handful of people were like, oh, you should do it again. It was like, okay, and you want to listen to your diners, obviously, but then we're like, yeah, that'd be fun. And we bit so much into our own ego that we were just like, yeah, let's do it again. And we did it, and it did just as not well.
Well, wonderful. Hey, at least you did it, right?
Yeah.
And now you know.
Now we know.
So you do a lot of foraging too now with your current menu and your current style. How often a week do you go out and get food from the land when you can?
Now that the weather is nice, a good couple of times a week. I don't want to make it sound like I'm out there every morning. I mean, it's my week is very sort of scheduled out as far as when I go outside, and then when I bring those outside ideas in, and then when I work on dishes, and then when the menu is actually created. Mm-hmm. And that process, that's about a 6-day process. So, Sunday I have the kids, and we do sort of other things. Sometimes we actually are, out hiking, and sometimes hiking and things like that can turn into little foraging journeys. But, a lot of times it's, Monday, Tuesday is, go outside, go to the ocean, go to the forest, go to the lakes, go and go see what's outside. And then clip, store, and take notes. And then that comes back to notebook on sort of, again, those evenings, and create the list of what I'm going to be creating the menu from. And that's comboed with, things we have fermented, pickled, cured, the fish that's coming off the boat as soon as we get that message from the captain. Things that are coming from, they're being picked from the farm. And that creates us basically just a gigantic list of ingredients. And from there, we, just start, we start with the flavors. So, usually making, carrots with duck, and then you start just kind of picking and pulling all these flavors together. Then you go back, and then, so that's layer 1. Layer 2 will be applying the technique to each of them. And then layer 3 is applying the temperature that you want the outcome of that to be. And so it kind of comes in waves.
That's amazing, and a ton of work, I assume, especially being, running a restaurant, doing this, taking care of your children, cooking for your children, which you mentioned a lot on Chopped, and we're going to talk about that in just a little bit. I assume you're not cooking Alice in Wonderland food for your children. So what's the furthest that you'll go for a food item for your restaurant? Like, how far do you reach?
That's a good because it jumps into the kind of your personal definition of the word local. Mm-hmm. And some people hyper local, everybody's put their kind of spin on that term. A lot of times that I like to go back to actually sort of way back in history is like when that word didn't even exist, and you think about it's more so gathering food from your friends. And, if a friend of yours lives out in Western Mass, then it grows something very specific that you're interested in and is offering it to you, that's acceptable. Yeah. There's a friend of mine who forages a lot around here, usually sort of mid to northern New Hampshire, and then also down towards Maine. And but then once a year, she actually goes to Florida. And when she does that, she found a wild grove of citrus and brings me back bitter oranges and wild tangerines with branches and leaves. Which is awesome. So again, is that New England? No, it's not. But my friend from New England went on a trip and brought back, some food for us to use. So that in my mind is acceptable. Other than that, I try to stay as close to home as possible. Those are just kind of examples of traveling. I really try to stay close. I try to stay with my friends and neighbors. That's my big philosophy of, buy food from your friends.
Do you think that comes back to the family aspect you mentioned earlier? Obviously, they're not in the restaurant setting, but you're creating a family of agriculture, farmers, even just friends who are just going to forage. You're creating a network that way, right?
Oh, very much so. Yeah, definitely. And I always think that the people that you can have the best experiences with and the best conversations with are your friends and family. Mm-hmm. So that if you're going to nurture any kind of a relationship, it is in a lot of ways kind of best with them, and they know their farm and their area the best, and the farther along that relationship goes, the better it's going to work out for everybody. So and it's actually funny. You go back to the very, very beginning of Stages, that I was so super excited with the different farms. It was like, oh great, all these farms are sort of growing all these different things, and this is awesome. And then I realized that I was trying to recreate what Charlie Trotter and the French Laundry did. It's just like you have this list of I buy onions from here and carrots from here because they're the best carrots, and it just goes down. I was working with, and not only was I working with, but I was extremely proud of the fact that I was using. I'm not going to use working with yet. Using over 20 farms. Wow. And I was like, because it became, again, it's like, it's an ego thing. I use all these now. I use all these farms. Then I realized that was the dumbest freaking idea I think I could ever come up with. I was full of dumb ideas when we started Stages. I think I've honed it in a little bit. But now it's like so there's two vegetable farms. There's Wake Robin and Brookford, and Brookford carries us through the winter because they can root cellar.
Oh, okay. Wow.
They are our dairy. So we get some chicken eggs from them. We also get all of our dairy products, milks, creams, buttermilks, things like that from them, yogurts. And then we have Élevage de Volaille. That's the farm up in Loudon. They raise 3 different kinds of ducks, chickens, geese, black Melton Welsh lamb, and now we have 1 Irish Dexter cow on their pasture.
And your cow.
That is our cow. We have purchased said cow.
That's amazing. Yeah.
And we're really excited. And I just kind of jump into the cow thing just really fast. It's it's obviously a heritage breed. It's a slow grower. And so that he has so much land and so much pasture that we're looking at this in much more terms of what is natural to the origin of this animal and not American domestic farming standards. And so we're looking more towards into, sort of Scandinavian farming methods, as far as, how long this animal lives before slaughter. Yep. And we're going a lot longer than what normally would, and it allows the meat to develop, the grain to develop. It's a lot better for the animal, and in terms will create a better product for us.
And when do you think maybe that when that cow goes to slaughter, how long do you think you have with the meat, depending on what you do with it? So if you cure some of it and do that, how long do you think that's going to last you?
It should last us a really long time.
Yeah.
I mean, an animal of that size for a restaurant of my teeny tiny little capacity will last us a while. Thank goodness for the Cryovac freezer. So, some things will definitely get cured, to hang for, long amounts of time. And then the rest of it will be sort of processed down to usable portions. And then we'll Cryovac and freeze from there, so we're pulling good cuts out of the freezer.
Yeah, amazing. Yeah, that's going to be great for your restaurant, especially during the winter months and things like that. You're going to have plenty of food for anyone who comes in.
Exactly,
for a long time, that's great.
Yeah. I mean that's that's part of our huge philosophy is you spend the warmer months getting ready for the colder months.
Yep.
And then again, this goes back to these are not new ideas. I didn't come up with this. And we know that it works. We put a lot of time into fermenting and pickling and curing and getting it. Just we say taking in larger animals in the warmer months and breaking them down, and that way getting coming close to now is we still have plenty of food to choose from.
Now, is there anything that you can't receive off that animal? Do you get every bit of it, or does it have to go through a certain process? Do you get, let's just say, the lungs? Do you get any of that?
We haven't. A lot of that will come down to what the USDA inspectors allow me to have. I ask for. I always say I'll take anything and everything that I'm allowed to have.
Yep.
A lot of times, when you get into organs, whether it be just to say the lungs, the intestines, things like that, is that those are not allowed to go commercial. Yeah. At least not here.
I just wasn't sure.
Yeah. No. That honestly, man, that could be something different. Like, Europe could have a different, law. Norway can have a different law. United States says, nope, you can't touch that.
Mm-hmm.
So.
Yeah, I wasn't sure if you were able to get it just because it was a purchased cow by you, but I did assume it had to go through USDA.
Yeah.
It would
Because
be
we're a
fun
restaurant.
to try those things out. Yeah.
Yeah.
But great. Yeah. So that's really amazing. I mean, we went through a lot of things at Stages. Is there anything that, let's just say, if you could travel back in time, is there anything that you would do different? I know we talked about a few ups and downs with Stages, but is there any one thing that you would do different maybe?
I think so. And again, if everybody could have if I could, redo some things, but, let it be said that I enjoy where I'm standing right now.
Yep.
But if I could go back and, sort of pick and choose where I worked a little bit differently, I think that I would have more pushed towards trying to get to Europe. And try to go, sort of up into the Scandinavian region, up into, sort of more older French restaurants than I did with some of the places that I went in the U.S. And I enjoyed, my time there and learned a lot. But I think to know where, if I went back with the knowledge of where my cooking went, then I would apply, sort of that and say, like, I want to take that in a little bit of a different direction.
Nice. That's good. I mean, at least it's not really a regret. It's just, hey, this would have been fun to do, right? So
yeah.
That's good. So let's get to the elephant in the room. Spoiler alert,
Yeah.
You were recently on Chopped, and you won.
I did.
Is pretty amazing. I watched it. Actually, I had to watch it on. I didn't know when it was going to air, so I watched it 2 nights ago. And how was that experience overall? Obviously, it's a long day. We had mentioned, right before we started recording, we talked a little bit about, just how long the day was and things like that. But let's let our listeners know, anything about it. I'm going to bombard you with questions. So
Cool. It was an awesome experience, and we said it is a long day. It's if you go all the way to the end, that it's a 14 to 15 hour day, which is nothing outside possible norm for a restaurant kid. But for a total of 1 hour and 20 minutes of cooking, now you're it's 13 hours of doing something else. So there's a lot of waiting, a lot of interviewing, a lot of sort of retake interviews, a lot of reset stuff. That's the dry side of it. The rest of it was just, it was awesome. I mean, I had such a great experience. Everybody that was there, via Food Network or at the sets there, or, part of the production team or direction, it's just, everybody was so cool. The judges were awesome. I love this style of competition, and which is why I signed up to do it, or applied to do it rather. I didn't. Mm-hmm. I love that idea, and I was very fortunate to get on the show, and I literally it's interesting, you get in the room with the other 3 competitors, and you can kind of look around the room almost like a poker table, and you're sizing people. I'll be trying to figure out what people's strengths and weaknesses are, and this one dude was just he was a chatty Cathy, man. He just would not shut up, and I was like, you're going first.
Was it the guy who went first?
It was, yeah.
I almost knew, when they had that lineup, I was like, oh man, this guy's
going first.
Not to talk bad about anyone, but yeah. I could just by looking. I told my wife, I go, that guy's out of here. Well, I knew he won already, so he obviously was out of here. But
but I mean, everybody was really cool. Him, Ashley. Everybody was they were really, really great. People, and off camera, we had great conversations about our food and where we're from, and we all got over this course of time, you get to know each other, which is really great. And that's the other part about doing something like this is I just made 3 new friends, which is really cool. That is, and but other than that, everybody's kind of getting super antsy and anxious, and they're trying to pound coffee, and I'm just I haven't had coffee in over 2 years, so I'm just sitting here, I'm drinking my tea, having my water, just trying to focus myself in. Mm-hmm. And everybody else is their nervous energy is just it's filling the room up. Yeah. And but then you get out there, and again, Michael still hasn't stopped talking. So I'm just shh, stop. Just give me 2 seconds of not hearing you.
Especially when you want to get your mind in a certain situation, doing mental mise en place and what you could possibly do.
No, it's Michael, what? There, that's better. But I know it just, yeah. Then you get it, together, and again, they set it up, and as you can see on the show that, we're standing at our stations, and you put the hands on the baskets and open. And for the first round, that you walk up there, and they do sort of like the walk, everything you do a couple times to get different camera angles, and in case something it isn't the take that they want. And so you go up there and you put your hands in your basket, and they say, okay, we're gonna 3, 2, 1, open your baskets, but you actually don't. They do that. I think it's the third time that you actually open the basket.
Okay.
And so as soon as your hands are on that basket, I mean, your heart starts racing. Everything is like, this is it. You're ready to go. I mean, you are ready to rock and roll. The adrenaline is running. I mean, think about, a runner, a starting block is waiting for that gun to go off.
Yeah.
And, you're racing through your head, like, what is it? What is it going to be? What am I going to start cooking? What am I going to grab first? Hopefully I know what all this is. And, then you do that. And then they say, okay, and this one, you're actually going to open it. And, truth be told to all the listeners, that when they open the basket, that is real time. That is open it, look at it, go. There is no break. There is no planning time. There's no sit there for a second trying to figure out what you're going to do. It is go.
So the timer starts the second that basket opens?
Yep.
Wow.
Yep.
Okay, so yeah, that's good, because I would prefer that. I would have been a little bummed out if you're like, yeah, you got about 5 minutes to figure it out. They do shots of your facial reactions while you're picking up old chicken parm or whatever.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. So it's totally real. And some people, sometimes that freaks people out. Again, like that anxiety is building up. But again, I'm lock, stock, and 2 smoking barrels here, man. I'm ready to rock and roll.
Yeah.
And so you open it, and you're like, oh crap.
This is nothing I wanted.
Nothing I wanted was in here. I really just wanted like a carrot, piece of celery, and some onion. That'd be fine.
Yeah, you cook anything with that.
Right.
Did you do anything to prepare? Say, like at stages, did you have your employees put together a quick mystery basket for you to do, or did you just go in there with maybe a mindset of, okay, if I get this, if I get lamb, I'll do this, or if I get chicken, I'll do this? Did you have anything like that?
I didn't actually. My brother and mother both suggested that, and I said, I'm actually going to do the opposite of that.
Okay.
Which is why I'm going on the show and you're not. and it's simply just because I thought if I start trying to figure out or walk in there with a handful of dishes already in my head, that whatever I open that basket, it's going to be none of that, and then I'm going to have to like unthink all of that. And so I more so, actually, honestly, what was going through my head is timing. I have confidence in my cooking ability. I have confidence in my ability to adapt and to make something really quickly. And I know that I can make something flavorful. So kind of put that thought to the side and just went on. I was like, I have 20 minutes to do something. In order to do that, the plan of attack, the timing plan is the absolute most crucial. Cooking will fall into place. But timing is a huge thing. And so you think of like what takes the longest, get that going. And you don't mentally have to plan out an entire dish right away. It's start something cooking and let it start making that happen.
Like a snowball effect. Oh, this would go great here. This is how I'm going to have to utilize this.
Absolutely.
Did you have a difficult with any specific ingredient? Like, did you look at it and go, I have no idea. Maybe you waited to the last minute to even put it on the plate. Or obviously watching the episode, it's hard to gauge exactly what happens in that 20 minutes.
Right.
But yeah, was there anything that you looked at and like almost forgot about it, and then you just had to get it on there?
The lo mein on the first round, the leftover lo mein, it wasn't a forgot about, but that was the crux for me. Was trying to figure out how to fit that into a dish, because I looked at like the kale salad had olives and onions, and then you've got the chicken parm, it's got the sauce and the cheese and everything, and then the avocado. I mean that to me, I was just like, that's a fat. I can put that anywhere.
Yeah.
But everything else is like, I could take it towards an Italian sort of flavor profile, but the lo mein is like, man, this thing's got like soy and sesame and I don't know what else saturated into it. So. That was like the hardest part. And actually what it was, like, I think that's why I call it like a Sunday dinner, was because a dish that this kind of alludes to, cooking at home with the kids. It's something that I do is I do this dish, you want to call it dinner. I call it goulash, broad term for who the hell knows what's in there. And it is something that I make for the kids that has summer squash, zucchini, eggplant, onions, mushrooms, and tomatoes. And they eat it. And that's like a combination of vegetables that most kids cringe at eating, and let alone put them together. And it's like, I kind of stew it down with like crushed tomatoes, and then my little magic ingredient is soy sauce. That's the thing that like gets them to love this dish. And so all of a sudden that idea clicked into my head. I was like, wait a minute, I've got vegetables, I've got, this meat, I have like an Italian profile, but I have soy sauce. Like, this is going to work. And so that's where I flipped it over into that.
Nice. So yeah, that makes total sense because it adds a meatiness from the soy sauce, the glutamic acid that's naturally in there will make those vegetables taste like meat, and then it goes down the hatch, right?
Yeah, and it worked.
So when you opened each basket, what was like your initial thought, or was it just like you had said, you're off to the races, start one thing and go?
Yeah, it's all of that. You're trying to not waste time thinking too much, because you have to go. But then to some degree, you're very quickly trying to sort out what order you're going to put these things in. And luckily the second basket had a steak. So I was like, okay, I was able to like start focusing around that. Whereas the first basket was like, where do I start this? It wasn't necessarily like an obvious, like go to the chicken parm. It wasn't an obvious thing. And in essence, like I took the chicken parm and just like I minced the hell out of it with my knife. I just, for the first, like, everybody's like racing all over the kitchen. I'm sitting here to like, MSA, crushing this chicken parm. And I don't know, so with that, and then with the next thing, it's like you start one things, and then but while you're working on step one, you're thinking about steps 2 and 3. And then as you move to step 2, so on and so forth, it's a slide scale of thought. You're not that way. You're not trying to work on everything at one time, but you're also not just working on one thing. So
that's really cool. I mean, and you did very well. Your dishes look beautiful, and you could tell you took the feedback and you evolved.
Yes. Yeah.
Was there any feedback maybe that you didn't necessarily think was fair? But to be honest, what we saw on the show itself, they seemed to really like your food. Maybe between not just you, but is there any feedback that you don't see on the show that?
Tons. Tons. Yeah. It felt like the critiques were like 20 to 25 minutes long. For each dish.
Wow.
They weren't. I'm sure it was more, closer to 5-ish minutes, but it was, in your head, you just feel like you're just getting beaten up for like 20 minutes. And I mean, they really get into you. They were very fair. I should put that out there. They were definitely very fair, and their comments were all right. This could have been here. This could have done that. They were all like, no, you're right. I agreed. The one thing that actually Scott Conan said that I disagreed with, and this is a philosophy thing. It was when I did the sauce for my beef dish on the second round, that he said, it just needed a little viscosity, and if it had maybe just a little bit of demi, and it's like as soon as he said that, I was like, I don't do that. I was like, I don't go to run to the pantry and use an already reduced, non-related, sauce, or in this case something that is created. I was like, I don't do that. I was like, this dish, I was like, that is a reduction sauce. That is, finished this way. It has a gas in it. I was like, that is classic. That's the way I would have done that. And so I stuck to it. And when he asked me about that, I told him that. And none of that was on there, but they appreciated the fact that it was like, no, that was a good choice. So.
And you had an answer. You didn't just say, no, you're wrong, right? You had a reason.
No, I had a reason for why I did it. Yeah, totally.
You can imagine the people that sometimes that they have to deal with who are just like, nope, you're wrong, I'm right. And then there's no conversation. There's no building off of that.
No, I was like, I don't think so. Yeah, no, I'm not going to be that guy.
and everyone has to realize, maybe, for our listeners, if you're not a chef, some people think that these people are rude or mean or anything like that. They're chefs and they care about food, and they want the best thing on the plate every single time. And you're in a competition and whatnot, and you had 20 minutes to create a dish out of nothing, almost. And but they're still going to judge it, and I don't think people realize that. Like you had mentioned that some people ask you if he was not the nicest person, but
right.
No, they're chefs. That they respect food and they want everyone else to too. So
that was absolutely the underlying. Thought for that entire judging process was that, at the end, again, they were harsh and they were fair, but they were also, just as you said, they respected the food and the dish, and they wanted you to learn from that, and they wanted you to be able to push yourself farther. and knowing that was, that was the key thing, is like you take what they said and you learn from it, and you get better really quick.
Yeah, and I hope that makes people respect the show more too. I mean, it's obviously a good show. It's been on for something like 38 seasons. So,
Yeah.
but it makes me respect the show more because it is a chef-driven and chef-based show. It's not just ready, set, cook from like the late 90s. It's
Right.
There's real thought and real respect that goes into the food on it. So we talked about like your overall experience on it. Would you say absolutely positive?
Absolutely positive. Yeah. In fact, when it was over, they said, "What do you think?" I was like, "I want to do it again."
Nice. You go back to the Contest of Champions or whatever.
I know. Yeah. If awesome. that all works out, then I would definitely go and I would definitely do that. Yeah.
Definitely, it was and
great experience.
The biggest question, the main question.
Yeah.
What are your plans for the 10 grand?
Well, I took a bunch of it and put it into savings, sort of a rainy day. Again, being a chef is like, you don't make much money. I don't have a lot of money, so it's nice at some point I'm going to need something. So that's over there. And then, put some away in another savings for travel. I'd like to get to Europe again. I want to go to Switzerland and go up towards that area. And then other things like that, I spent a bunch of money on the kids, got everybody kind of outfitted for their respective sports and whatnot, and taking them out to dinner, and just be able to do nice things for nice people. I think it was a huge thing. I bought myself some new rock climbing shoes. Awesome. So I did a little bit of shopping, but then the rest of it is like, kind of let it sit there in the bank account and pretend it's not there.
Absolutely, and it's a safety net, and that's great instead of just blowing it on something or whatever. That's awesome. So I'm going to ask you a few questions now, and then we're going to play a little word association at the end, and we'll wrap it up here. So we've gone through your entire journey, from beginning wanting to be an animator for Disney, taking that and applying it to making beautiful food, going all the way to winning Chopped. What are you most excited about with food right now? It could be your restaurant, it could be anything. I think what I'm most excited about is actually traveling and learning more. And it kind of, Chopped has been a great thing, kind of lights a new little fire underneath you to get excited about, food and cooking. And, I'm excited for, as Stages evolves, I feel that I've really hit a cooking stride recently. Mm-hmm. And I want to keep exploring that. But it also makes me want to, get outside and try and travel and go learn more about more cultures and in different areas of the world. And I think that will influence my cooking even more in a great way. Awesome. So what are you most proud of in your career?
My kids. The fact that I've put so much time and effort into, getting to the point of, what you said of having a moderately successful restaurant, being on national television, doing things like that, and be able to have children that are as wonderful as they are, and to be able to have them involved in my career. I'm really thankful for, the fact that I don't have a job where children aren't allowed, mm-hmm. That my kids can come into the restaurant, that my 9-year-old daughter, Emma, the very last course on our tasting menu is Emma's cookies, so that she makes cookies. That's and amazing. We serve, so that I'm able to integrate, all parts of what I love, whether, I'm an outdoor kid at heart, I don't even know, I spend as little time as possible inside, to be able to combine that with art, with cooking, with, my kids, all in one spot. I'm very proud of that.
That's really amazing. I have a young child, so it's kind of nice to see it. Now, do they show any interest in maybe wanting to be a chef?
They're 9 and 6, so who knows? Yeah. And, other than wanting to be superheroes and vets, and they do definitely find an interest in it. Emma's cookies are great, and who knows what avenue that could create. But something that I've always thought, I kind of, slowly make it a point to them. And I've learned it across, growing up around people that cook, as a family in the kitchen, that I'm never ever once going to ask them to jump into a restaurant job, unless they want to.
Yeah.
But I definitely see the importance of being able to cook, and be able to take care of yourself. So that again, looking at where I am now is like I can cook, so I can take care of my family. And because of that, I'm able to create a meal out of a lot of things that are in the refrigerator that, somebody else might not be able to or whatnot. But it's definitely helped a lot.
All right. And one last question before we get into our word association that we have right here at the end. If you could give one piece of advice to an aspiring chef,
mm-hmm.
what would it be?
Picture a hill, mm-hmm. and it's a pretty steep hill. And you look up and your goal is at the very top. The only issue is that the top of the hill just keeps moving farther and farther away. And you start to walk up that hill, knowing that this is a big journey and that eventually you'll get there. That don't forget to look down at your feet and focus on every single step that you take. That if your eyes are only set on the top of that hill, you will never understand how you actually got there. You will just arrive. And nobody ever just arrives. You have to work at it. You have to understand it. You have to understand why you put one foot in front of the other. So that when you look back down the hill, you can do it again.
Great advice. Absolutely perfect advice. All right. Let's get into a little bit of fun stuff. Get away from the sappy just for a second. And get a tissue. Little word association. I'm going to say an item. Okay. Usually it's going to be food related. And you just tell me your initial thoughts on it. Sound good?
Okay. Sounds great.
Truffle oil.
Gross.
Pineapple on pizza.
I'll do it. Yes.
Hot take. That's a hot take right there.
Yeah.
The Impossible Burger.
No thanks.
It's actually kind of delicious if I had it once. Chipotle mayo.
Overused.
Zoodles.
I actually don't know what that is.
That is zucchini that's been put on
oh my God.
Zoodleizer or whatever.
Yeah. Okay. Can't use the same word, overused. Old.
Yeah. It's a done trend. Yeah.
Yeah.
Bone broth.
Silly term.
It's the worst term, isn't it? We've been making it for years. It's called stock.
It's called stocks. It took me a second to figure out, like what is it? Somebody making something new? I was like, no. It's a damn marketing term.
Yeah. Microgreens.
Enough.
Yep. And the term celebrity chef.
Pointless,
yeah. Awesome. Well, Chef, thank you so much. I thought this was a great conversation we had. I look forward to coming to eat at your restaurant. I think everyone else should come eat at Stages. If you want to give just a little bit more information on Stages, what days are you open?
Yeah, so we are open Wednesday through Saturday. Right. We have moved into basically a flat seat at 6:30. And we do require reservations, which can be attained through our website, which is stages-dining.com, www.stages-dining.com. We offer a 10 to 12 course, constantly evolving tasting menu for the evening, which changes quite a bit. And we only have 9 seats in our little kitchen area, so come hang out and let's have some fun in the kitchen.
Amazing. All right. You can find Chef Evan Hennessy, Instagram, at Evan Hennessy, Twitter, at Evan Hennessy, Facebook, Stages at One Washington. I love this conversation. I absolutely look forward to talking to you more and coming to eat. And I think everyone else who visits the Dover area or even Portsmouth area, anywhere in New Hampshire, should absolutely come and eat at your restaurant or at least try to make a reservation. Thank you so much, Chef, and have a great day and have a good service tonight.
Thank you so much. I appreciate all of this. Thanks. Take care.
Yeah. All right. First and foremost, I want to thank Evan Hennessy for coming on the show and sharing his transformation with us. And I want to thank all of you for listening. If you haven't already, hit that subscribe button. It's the easiest way to get this podcast the second it comes out. Also, find us on Twitter and Instagram at Modernist Pantry, Modernist Pantry on Facebook, our website, www.modernistpantry.com, or blog.modernistpantry.com, where we publish new articles and recipes frequently. I'm Scott Guerin, and this is the Kitchen Alchemy Podcast.